Okay, I think I'm almost good. I think I better share this now. Yes, please.
We are done.
Sorry, you're done, right?
Yes.
Okay, fine. So
You're back.
that's fine. It's okay.
All right.
All right, take care of you. Enjoy the rest of your day. Yeah, bye. Okay, so starting. So guys, Danny, Janet, we're going to be having a live chat. You guys are coming on the live chat. We're discussing our candidate experience. We're live already. Yes, why not? So we're live already. We have one person online on Instagram. I can't see how many people are online on Facebook. I don't know how to.
You see like an eye.
I. Expertographer. Come and check.
I don't know.
Come and check.
Expert. I'm not sure, but if you see like an eye.
Yeah, I'm looking. I can't see any eye here.
This one is Instagram.
This is not Instagram. This is Facebook. Facebook Live.
I don't know. They're sure. What is this one? The comments.
Anyways, if I can't check how many people are online, it's still fine. I think we'll just go ahead that way.
This your position is not. It depends.
You want me to sit up like this?
No, like the
Take
phone.
off my cap.
No, like the phone. If it could be more.
Yes, take off.
Okay.
If not my.
Alright guys, are you people aware you're live already? So you're just giving your office drama to the whole world. That's fine, not a problem. Okay, so let me have your. No, that's a risky thing to do. It's a risky thing to do. Not on your phones. Is it not on a laptop?
On our phones too.
No.
It's no longer the laptop.
That's how it's.
Okay, Omo Banime joined. Good morning. Yes, wave at you back. So I'm waiting for more people to join. Then we get started. We just start discussing all of this. Damn, I really don't trust giving you the Wi-Fi password. It will finish faster than I imagine. Wi-Fi password, share password. Why would I have to share my Wi-Fi password? Okay. Good morning. Anyways, let me do it in faith that.
Sorry, online. I'm hearing you.
Not a problem. Yeah, I know. Okay, so I'm starting employability skills discussions now. Please, you can share with your friends, your loved ones, people who should be online with us, so that they can be part of this discussion. It's just for us to share thoughts on the issues relating to recruitment, and why a lot of people are having issues. Yes, you're welcome. So guys, is any one of you live now?
On Facebook.
Okay, on Facebook Live. Another person. I'm not really seeing anybody joining.
On Instagram, is it your own personal page?
My personal page, yeah.
Hmm?
I'm not following him. I'm following the news guy.
I'll go to Sweet.
I've seen him already.
Okay, so employability skills training basically are skills required for securing or getting the right kind of job. And of course, everyone knows that getting employed is not just you indicating interest. It's not just you wanting a job, but you also must have what it takes. So we want to discuss what it takes to get the right kind of job. And I'm aware that in Nigeria now, there are lots of people, at least from experience, a lot of people who have applied for various jobs and didn't get that job because maybe it wasn't available, or they were found fit for a different kind of job. So based on that, we've had lots of candidates just throwing applications randomly, because even if I apply for the kind of job I need, it won't come through as expected. So why won't I just throw in any job that comes my way, and maybe luck will pick me up one of these days. So employability skills are very critical skills a candidate should have when applying for a job. A candidate should keep him or herself equipped with these skills, so that it will be the job search process will be easier, and it would be less stressful. So I'm just going to give you a background about the typical candidate experience. In my experience as a recruiter, and generally as an HR person, I've seen a lot of candidates apply for jobs, and many of them don't even know what exactly the job entails. Many don't even understand what is expected of them. Many of them don't understand the organization. Many of them don't even have the skills required for the basic form of that recruitment that they're applying for. And it makes it very, very difficult for a recruiter to put you where he has a need. I think it's appropriate I mention now that the recruitment process is not just seeing vacancies and throwing in application. Understand how it works. Before any vacancy comes live, an organization must have experienced a gap in their process, and that gap is what they're trying to fill. And while trying to fill that gap, that's what leads to that vacancy that you are applying for. Now, before they make the vacancy public, one of the things that you see is they must have looked at the expectation. What do they intend to achieve with that role being filled? What would the candidates do? What the employee in this case now do when the person resumes? What kind of mindset do they want the person to have? What culture will the person have that would make the person a perfect fit for the job? So it's a blend of skill set, perception, lots of other areas which we're going to discuss today. So now the question will now be, as a job seeker, do you have these things before applying for the job? Do you think with just your CV, it's enough for you to have the job that you're applying for? Please turn down the volume. So these are the things that we will be discussing now. It's not just the client It's not just you seeing vacancies and training application. What's the mindset of the HR person who made the job public? Why was the job made public? What exactly is the reason for that vacancy going live? Now, if I understand what's the reason, what is the role, what is the organization, it might make it easier for me to fit into what they're looking for. I would also like to mention that a front desk person, or let me say a customer service person in a small business, might not be a perfect fit for the same responsibility in a multinational business. And that now calls to question what class of staff or what class of candidate are you? What organizations does your skill at the moment fit into? Now, most candidates want to get the job, and we all throw in the whole speech about luck, about faith, about what else again? Just a lot of hope that you just get picked without having the skills. It's not the case most of the time. It's not the case most of the time because the employer, except maybe some other organizations who are not forward thinking, I would say that with all sense of caution. Most employers are looking to meet a need in the organization, and you applying, you must tell them and convince them beyond reasonable doubt that you have what it takes to fill in that role. So that, of course, is like a background on why employability skills is very, very, very important. Now, we have lots of candidates who throw in applications for various vacancies. Many of them, after reviewing the CVs, are not even a fit for the entry level of the roles they are applying for. My team had an invite for general managers this week for a particular client of ours. And when we saw the people that came in for that particular role, I bet you those people will not even pass for an admin officer because of their class of experience. They've not done anything related before. They don't even have any academic qualification matching with that role they're applying for. And this makes it very, very, very difficult for me to put them to the job, because when the client sees those candidates, what happens is, how did you find these people fit for my request? Is it that you don't understand what we're trying to feel and all of those things? So that's why we discussed this. So that's like a background to a typical candidate experience. So basically now, the employer has a request, has a need. You as a candidate also has a need. How do you both marry and give each other what is missing? You need a job, he needs a staff. So the point at which you are the staff he's looking for, then he gives you the job you're looking for, and that makes a very good experience. So that being said, value is basically what is being exchanged when you have the whole recruitment process. Value. The candidate must have value to sell, and the employer is willing to buy that value. That is the first point I would like to throw on the table this morning before we get into other areas. So how is the value determined? That's the next question. I would want to discuss how that value exchange is being determined. I must tell you that employers have created, or let me not say employers, the HR department they've done a good job in carefully creating a process to assess the suitability of candidates in various into various arms of the business or departments of an organization. And that's why the first thing you see is they put the job in the public space through job adverts. Then you see those job adverts and you apply. Now, when you apply for the job, the next thing, what instrument do you use to apply? You send in your CV. When you send in your CV, the next thing that you have is you get an invite. Now, invite could be in many other ways. It could be via phone call, it could be via text message, it could be via email. Any approach found fit by the HR is being engaged in inviting the candidates. Now, when the candidate is being invited, that is the start of your own job as a candidate, because your CV might not just be enough. Now you need to prove what I have in my CV is also, or is just like an abridged version of the skills I have. I'm not intending to have 200 pages CV, so I've given you an abridged version of me. Now they are saying me, you should be impressed, and you should also tell you that this person you're seeing, that's the kind of staff that you need to employ. So the employer gets to know you through the CV. Now, after the CV, he invites you for the interview, asks you a few questions, ask you job-related questions, qualification, your qualification, ask you details that has to do with your knowledge of the job, understanding of the industry, because that's what makes a difference between organizations. So if you're applying in my organization, why should I employ you? Do you understand what I do? Do you know how I do what I do? Do you really have the kind of mindset I would like to have? It's mostly called organizational culture. So do you understand my culture, and are you ready to be part of my culture? And that is also very important. So these are things that the employers will like to see. So your CV is very important, and I want to say a lot of the job seekers that we have around are not putting conscious effort in developing their CVs. You have a lot of people who are applying for a job. They don't have the CV that defines their suitability into the kind of job they're applying for. So if you're applying for an accounting job and you've worked in about 4 places before that application, now those experiences must tell how much value you're bringing into the new job. Now, if you have a CV that tells me more of you as a customer service person, but you studied accounting, how do you intend me to put you in an accounting role that requires experience? It might be near impossible, because the experience means you've seen the problems on the job beyond the theories that you were told in school. You've gone past all of those hurdles, and now you're trying to get into the work process. So with this, the CV does not sell you well to the employer, most likely it would end up in the trash. Now, if an employer looks at that CV and feels, oh, this person has the skills relating to what I'm trying to employ, which of course now calls to mind few observations around CVs and what people do. I don't know why a lot of candidates would make up their CVs and give it names like CV1, CV2, or Johnny Lolo 5. Give funny names that will make it difficult for the HR person to relate the CV to the person who is sending the CV. Now, what's my recommendation? It will be ideal that the CV carries the same name as the person who is sending the CV. So Joseph is sending a CV for a particular job role. Joseph's name should be the name or the labeling for that file or that CV on the computer. Of course, in this age and time, it's mostly soft copy documentations that are being done. So it's expected that your CV should tell who you are, starting from how you label your CV into the content in the CV. It's very, very, very important. Now, once the CV is able to sell you appropriately, the interview, of course, seems guaranteed. Then the HR or the recruiter most likely will now send you an invite for an interview. Now, most candidates are in the habit of not checking their mails regularly. So they could have an invite for an interview they've prayed and hoped for, and boom, what happens is they are only checking that mail a day after the interview, which means I'm to have the interview. I also have the interview on Thursday, today being Friday. On Thursday, I'm checking the interview invite on Friday. Now, I've missed it already, so it already sends the information that something is out of place. So it's expected that a typical candidate who is serious about the job search process should ensure you check regularly. If you've ever thrown in an application anywhere and you've not been invited, so they could reach you via text message, so have your phone close to you. They could also do a phone call to you. They could also send you an email. Too many means through which you could be reached. So ensure you keep tab with all these different areas where the invite could come from, and then have yourself get the invite on time. Invite. So if you knew you were not sure about that vacancy, why did you even throw in an application in the first place? There are lots of candidates who apply just for the fun or the pleasure of application. Now, when they get an invite for that particular job they've applied for, many of them will not still show up at that interview. So why did you waste the whole energy applying? Because it sends a wrong signal of you to the recruiter. Most recruiters or most recruiting organizations will actually just use the button blacklist on their portal to blacklist such candidates, because they believe if you've sent in an application, we found you suitable, and we invited you, we expect you to show up. I mean, it's for you to now gain the experience. Now, what most candidates do in this at this stage is they now call, probably the invite has a contact number. They call the number, now interviewing the interviewer about the job. Imagine a candidate asking you, okay, what's the job about? Where is the client? How much is the salary? On the phone. So why were you invited for an interview if it wasn't, if they could have answered you all of those questions on phone? Now you are asking about the job, but how about the interviewer? Has he ascertained that you are the kind of candidate he wants to employ? You are the kind of candidate that he would like to have in his establishment. So don't forget the start of the conversation. It's about value exchange. So you want to understand if they have the value you're looking for. Now, don't miss the point by having to put your own value forward. It could mean that you are not ready for the whole candidate, the whole interview process or recruitment process. So it's always advisable, take your time to show up at the interview, prepare your questions, and ask as many questions as possible at the interview. Of course, you know, it's a common thing. Yeah, Edward, I see you. It's a common thing in Nigeria to have a lot of candidates. Or you can now ask the questions you have and find out if the employer or the organization have what you need or what exactly it is that you are looking out for. And of course, you know, nothing stops you as a candidate from turning down an opportunity at the interview stage. Because if you go to the interview and you feel they don't have what it takes, then of course you've cleared your doubts. Then you can now let them understand that, okay, this might not be the opportunity for me, but if anything else comes up in this area, I'll be open to it. So that, of course, is very important. Now, let me also mention something about the CVs. Most candidates that have seen their CVs, the CVs basically does not look like someone who is serious about the job search process. That is a common experience. How would you have all your skills well outlined, well detailed in the whole in this document you call a CV, and you forget to put your active phone numbers, or you even forget to put your email, or you forget to put both means through which you could be reached? So when they find it suitable, how do you intend them to get back to you? And remember, these applications most times would come in a pool. So you have lots of people who have sent in applications from different parts of the world who are applying for the same vacancies. So if I'm now finding your CV relevant and I want to send you an invite, it will take me extra process of going through the pool or the entries to be able to get what email sent your CV, to be able to still reach you through that channel. And I can bet you the whole recruitment process is timed, that most recruiters don't have that luxury of time, except your skill is very, very exceptional. That is the point where you now see these recruiters going through that pain to pull up your record. So it's important for job seekers to ensure their details are well outlined. What do I need to see in a typical CV? Beyond your bio data, which is details through which I can reach you, I would like to know you, have an understanding of where you're from. Well, I don't need details like what born are you in the family? Are you the first or the last or the third? I don't want that information. And I don't think most of the other recruiters also need that detail, but they would like to understand something that tells, okay, where are you based at the moment? Are you in Abuja? Are you in Lagos? Are you in Port Harcourt? Okay, that's where you are. Okay, so are you a man or a woman? And you know, Nigerian names could actually be unisex names. You could have a Tosin here, that's a guy, and you have another Tosin here, that's a girl. You could have yes, I wish I could pick another name that has such a blend. But you know, it's that way. So you should let me understand what gender you are, what phone number, what your email, where are you at the moment, where's your address, because these addresses also are very important in helping me understand. If I'm trying to recruit someone in central area, I might not consider a candidate who stays in Gwagwalada. That is talking about people who are in Abuja. So if I'm trying to recruit somebody in Ilupeju, in Lagos, for instance, I might not want to consider somebody who stays in Aja because of the distance. And of course, what it boils down to is the details of the job. So this is the reason why it's very important for all of these details to be available. And when you list the experiences you have, it's important that you also mention the job details that goes with those experiences, because it's in most cases going to help the recruiter to understand what you've done before that can fit into what he has as a need. Now, moving forward, I'll be expecting you to give me these things as summarized as possible. Now, I'm not intending to see 5 pages. Now, I know that some of the things that I could get as questions as this goes on is that, okay, how about those that ask for experience? If you've gone through the university, let's assume you've not gone through the university, you have ND. One thing I'm very certain about is that you will have actually done your IT, or is it CWS they call it now? So you will have done that. That is an experience. Now, if you know the career path or the future is very important to you, there's nothing wrong in you finding a way to gather that experience either formally or informally. What is being traded at the interview is basically your ability to get the work done, the work you're applying for, to get it done. So many times candidates will say, okay, I've not gotten employed in this role before, but do you have an uncle who has similar business? Have you done something like that before with such persons? How long did you do it? These are the things that can help you sell yourself and sell your skills to these people. So that takes care of the CV and the interview. Now, how do you explain the interview process to a job seeker who has never attended an interview? It is basically expected that you should do a research before showing up at an interview. Why am I saying this? There is no comprehensive document that tells you the different shades or different designs of interview process. You could have a panel interview that is very friendly. You could have a panel interview that is very, very, very principled and strict. You could have a single person interview you who is very friendly, and you could have a single person who would interview you who is very strict. All of these things comes out to be the candidate experience at the interview. So you need to run your research and be prepared. Now, what in most cases is expected is you should know the role you are applying for. You should know the organization you are applying with. You should also understand yourself as a person. And before going for the interview, what I commonly advise job seekers is try and do a rehearsal. Imagine you're having a strict person interview you. So stand in front of your mirror, ask yourself those so-called strict questions, and find yourself build the confidence for the interview, because the 5 minutes, 3 minutes, 10 minutes, or whatever number of minutes you spend at the interview, it means a lot to the interviewer and also means a lot to your own job search process. So if it is misused, you can tell that that opportunity is gone on account of not being prepared. So what exactly do you need to do? Take your time, prepare for the role. If you are applying for the role of an accountant, then you should understand there are different levels of accounting. Are you an entry-level accountant, or intermediate, or an expert? Now, if you are entry-level person, so you should be able to apply for roles that fits your experience level. So you don't get there and don't wish that the interviewer will be blindfolded and will not understand what skill level you are, and just give you an experienced job. And you know the common things that job seekers would always tell you, I can learn on the job. And I'm wondering, How do you intend to learn a job you've not tried? Give you an example. How would someone who has never driven a manual car now intend to learn a manual car on the highway? That's suicidal. So if I'm employing a manager for a business or an accounting head, someone who is going to head the accounting department, and I'm bringing in an entry level who said I can learn on the job, just think for a minute. I give you the opportunity. What would you know to do on day one? What would you know to do on day two? What would you tell the people who are under you in that department? So would it be a fair bargain for me as a recruiter to give you an opportunity like that out of so-called sentiments? Because that's not going to affect you. You would get the conversation going, but in most cases, the problem will be with the quality of your results. And that, of course, is what picks up all the other HR issues that you might get around, because you see the HR now having to deal with poor performance. You see the organization dealing with issues here and there because of the initial issue that was not well ironed out at the recruitment stage. We in recruitment call it pure, the same way we have pure water. So we have that pure, P-U-R-E, which of course is previously unidentified recruitment error. So anytime that error is being created, it becomes a problem in the work process. And that, of course, is important that it should be taken out. So this is what a typical candidate should have in mind. Understand that the recruiter needs this area cleared. So you also need to put effort in the job search. Try your best to make sure your CV looks good. Now, when you show up, ensure the recruiter is impressed seeing you and also impressed matching the CV with the person. I've seen a candidate before that came into my office, and when he came into the office, I stood up to greet him. Now, I'm not saying it's wrong to actually accord your candidate courtesy, but what I'm saying is the carriage, the communication, the total body language, the preparation was top notch. When I met the candidate, I almost assumed he was a client. Now, when we spoke, of course, you can expect, you can imagine what to get from that kind of conversation. Now, when I got through with that candidate, I did not waste time recommending that candidate because he has what the client needs. Now, we have two different, or let me say different areas of HR. We have the generalist and the consulting. I've been operating both in the consulting and generalist HR areas for a while. But this experience was as a consultant for another organization. I recommended that candidate to the client that this is a candidate that you can work with. And this is not a function of sentiments, not a function of me knowing anybody, not a function of me having any previous experience with the person, just because you came in and you gave me a wow presentation. Now, let me tell you this, and you shouldn't take it out of context, that a typical job seeker at that minute of interview should see himself or herself as a marketer. You're trying to sell yourself to a potential employer who would buy you at an agreed, or not, or buy your skills, not you now, buy your skills or pay for your skills or rent your skills at a particular agreed fee. So you can't be expecting me to pay you when you've not sold yourself well to me. And of course, if you want to understand what that phrase of you as a marketer means, go and ask professional marketers, people who are in the marketing field, and they will tell you how much energy or how well they garnish the skills they have so that the interviewer understands, this is all I'm looking for. I don't need to look any further. Why am I having to interview more people when I am seeing this person? That is very, very important. So the way you apply now, one other thing I have in my notes to mention is that when you see a job advert, don't just throw in your application because you saw an email. Read the whole instruction before throwing in your application. Many job seekers would see an email because they said, send your CV to xyz@xyz.com. You just get the CV, attach an email, and send. Or some would even go as far as saying, for your attention. Some will say, my CV. The one that cracked me up big time was a candidate that sent me a mail, that sent a CV and said, this job is mine in Jesus' name. I laughed really hard. Really, really, really hard. It was very, very, very funny. Now, I'm not having any issue with the fact that he said, this job is mine in the name of Jesus. But the fact is that, why don't you just read the instruction and follow the instruction and see how easy it is to even get that job? As against you assuming that there is already opposition, so I need to break and bind and cast. This is very, very important. So follow the mode of application, read the instruction carefully, and ensure you follow the instruction. Then when you send in your CV, ensure you send the right CV. Send your CV that contains relevant things about yourself and prepare for the interview. Now, the interview process, like a typical interview assessment sheet, we'll look at your body language, we'll look at your communication, we'll look at your job knowledge, we'll look at your experience, we'll look at your career development goal. And one other thing they will look at in this current age, which is no longer luxury, is your IT skills, your ability to use the tools relevant in the 21st century or in the recent time office space. So if I'm going to employ you as my secretary and you'll be working with me in the office and I know most of my documentation will be done by you, do you think I need to start, do you think I want to hear the phrase, I can learn on the job for your IT skills? Most likely not. So these are the things that are expected. These are the things that most candidates are meant to put in their mind. And if preparation meets opportunity, then what else are you praying about? In most cases, it's almost like a cakewalk for you already because the job is already done. So these are the things that I think is very important. Now, one common thing in areas like Lagos and even some areas in Abuja and some other very busy areas with job seekers is your interviewer gave you time for 10 a.m. for the interview or 9 a.m. for the interview. And what you will now do is leave your house by 9:30 because under normal circumstances, you expect that between 9:30 and 9:50, you should be able to get to the venue. But what happens in the case if you are using a public transport, you don't get a bus on time? What happens in the case you got to the bus, you got into your car, tried starting the car if you are driving, and the car refuses to start? Or what happens you drive halfway and you have a flat tire? What happens in the case whereby if you're using a commercial vehicle, you on your way to work or to the interview, and boom, an accident happens, and you now need to be. These things actually are negative markers for candidates. And sincerely, these are one of the reasons why lots of job seekers, in fact, I think if you take opinion poll from lots of recruiters, they have the same thing to say about job seekers. Many people need the job but are not willing to dot the I's and cross the T's that goes with getting the job, and that becomes a problem. So how do I give you a job that is entrusted in my care without you showing me you have what it takes to keep it the same way I have tried to keep the job? So it's very important that your response time is as quick as possible. You ensure you prepare, give enough time. There is no crime in arriving at the interview venue earlier than the scheduled time, because when you get there and you show up, they see you as serious-minded. Now, the candidate experience during the interview could also be very funny. How funny? If I'm now having an interview, maybe the question starts with, good afternoon, my name is Joseph Obiboye. I work with Blue Sky Integrated Consult and I'm interviewing for this role. So I would like you to give me a brief of yourself. I would want to know about your work experience, your academic qualification, and any other skills that sells you. As a candidate at that minute, what I'm expecting you to do is to wow me with who you are in terms of qualification, experience, and how it translates into this role I'm interviewing you for. A lot of candidates miss it at this point because you cannot project yourself as a marketer. Or let me say, you can project yourself as an administrative assistant and be applying for an admin manager job? Answers like, yes, when I worked with my initial, where I last worked, I was okay, let me start this way. I studied business administration, and the last place I worked, I worked with this organization. I was assisting in file arrangement. I was assisting in documenting details in the office, and everything you told me just points at you being an assistant. How do I put you? And you've barely done that for about maybe 6 months or a year. So the experience is not even enough for me to say, oh, this person has what it takes to trade into this particular role as an admin manager. So if I don't give you that role, it's not sentiments. It's not also me trying to keep the role for a loved one or something. It's you. How well did you sell yourself to me? What picture of yourself did you paint? So this is what we see during the interview, and this is how I expect job seekers to sell themselves. I tell you, the interview process might not be 100% a review of your competence or stability for a job, but in most cases it gives 80% because it's more of the psychology. So the recruiter is looking at you and is reading your body language, listening to what you're saying, trying to look at what you've done before with the role. And when he's looking at all of this, he's just asking in his mind, does this person understand what role I'm trying to fill? In case you're not answering well. And if you're answering well, I must also mention that it's important for job seekers to always read the facial expression of their recruiter or the interviewer. Because sometimes we say a lot of things facially that our words have not communicated. And I don't think that also should also discourage you or maybe give you a bad vibe at the interview, so that you don't get there and while the interview is ongoing and you see the man having some kind of expression that does not seem encouraging, then you now say, oh, I've lost this opportunity. No, just stick to what you've prepared, what you've planned, and just see how it goes. It's either a yes or a no. That's how it goes. So that being said, I wouldn't want to take too much time. So it's expected you sell yourself well within those 5 minutes. Look around your skills, look around the organization, look around, in fact, it's not a bad idea to also read your interviewer and understand what kind of things do you think will communicate myself or my skills better to this person. So this is highly recommended for the job seeker. Now, when you have done all that is in your care to do, good CV, showing up on time at the interview, if you were asked to acknowledge the invite, you did acknowledge the invite, and you went through the interview process, and you've also asked all necessary questions around what the job entails, all the gray areas that you feel matters to you enjoying a particular work experience, then you leave the rest in the hands of God. Might be the appropriate time to now activate the faith or the hope or the positive energy. I believe I'm going to get this, because at that point you've done all that is expected. What some of us candidates do now is we stalk the numbers that has sent us an invite. We now send them early morning prayer, send them afternoon prayers, send them evening prayers. You call them, say it was a wrong dial. Things like this also shows desperation. It paints a picture that you need this job desperately and you're ready to do anything to ensure you get the job. Well, we know the situation that a lot of people need job, and too bad that we have very few opportunities and we have lots of candidates. But this is to tell the candidates how limited the opportunities are. But what's off for recruiters now is that there are lots of candidates that we can pick from. But how many of these candidates are really employable? That's the question. Many of these candidates that are applying for jobs are not even selling themselves as people who have solution to give. It's just like giving a organizer the theater room for operation, asking him to conduct the operation on a patient who has a delicate health condition, it might be too much risk. And it's important that every one of us keep these things in mind and we prepare well enough, because the recruiters are looking at the pool and are imagining 400 entries, only 20 are relevant to the role I'm filling. Not because I didn't choose to work with others, but the CV is not telling me anything. Now you look at it. I'm looking for a job. How many openings are out there? The little one you see, many people are applying. So you see that it's not a process that you should take carelessly or you should handle with carelessness. So it's important that you put that in mind. Now let me go back to my notes, and also try and ensure that value is being created in this little broadcast. And I don't want it to be too long. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is why candidates fail at interviews. I've mentioned some of these things during my earlier discussion, or let me say my brief. Candidates fail during interviews for, first, poor preparation. I have an interview. I've seen the role they're inviting me for. I've gotten the brief, but I just choose not to prepare well enough. So I show up at the interview almost as if I just woke up from sleep. Now, the interviewer, I must tell you, would have taken his time to prepare for you. He knows you're coming in. He has set his questions. He has planned what his day would look like. He's already gotten his assessment sheets ready to pass some candidates to the next level. The next level is even preparing to have those candidates who are qualified for that next level. So the question is, I'm meeting with you and you look to me as if you are not prepared. That becomes a very big problem. And it is a problem an interviewer cannot help you with. I mean, the best an interviewer sometimes can just do is to offer you water. Are you nervous? Do you want water? Do you need to take a walk around and come back for this interview? That might be the best that the interviewer can do. But once that is done, that is only to help you relax. But in case you don't have the information to exchange, that would not still change the reality on the ground. The next thing is unrealistic expectation. I'm not giving this list in any particular order. I'm just throwing them out there. You can just arrange them the way you find relevant. Now, if I have a candidate who is an entry-level candidate, or a greenhorn as it's been called in the HR space, that's someone who is just fresh from school, and I'm asking you, how much do you intend to be paid? Now, this is a sensitive part of the interview. And you now tell me, okay, I'm expecting to be on vacation annually. I'm intending to have an official car. He's also looking at the opportunity to earn as much as, let me just say, ₦1 million per month. No doubt there are organizations that will start you up on that salary. But looking at the society in Nigeria, the workspace, do you really think that's a realistic expectation from a candidate who has 0 to 1 or 0 to 2 work experience? It might be very, very unrealistic. And truthfully, this is the society we have around. And what even amazes me is many of these candidates who show up for interviews will say it laughing. I mean, it's almost like the way you're pricing something in the market and you just throw a joke so that the person would not take it too seriously, and if it works, fine. If it does not work, then you know that, okay, that did not fly. Most times at the interview, you only are selling yourself, and you either sell yourself well or sell yourself badly. So, unrealistic expectations could sell you badly at the interview, because you will have a candidate who is very good, probably the skills very relevant, looking at all the areas that are relevant to the job. You've been assessed and you've been found suitable, and boom, I would like to discuss details of the job with you. Then you now start telling me things that looks impossible. So my counsel to job seekers is, try your best in most cases to research the job and know what is obtainable. So that if you choose to ask for a salary, you're asking for a salary that is relevant to the job you are applying for. Now, what some smart candidates will tell you is that the organization has their own salary scale. Very true. But what I'm also looking at is that have you done your homework to know how much I pay or how much I might be offering? Do you think it would match with your own reality? Now, this is the point where a candidate can either say a yes or a no. Because if your salary expectation, truthfully, based on your pros and cons, your realities of where you live, where you're coming from, and the experience you have, what value you intend to bring on the table, you feel you should be paid 300,000 naira. No problems asking for that amount. Now, the question is this organization willing to pay 300,000 naira? If I now tell you, okay, what I'm willing to pay is 250,000 naira, that is where you say, okay, that can still work for me, or it will not work. But the fact is that you sold yourself. They hold you in that space of a quality candidate, suitable candidates for those kind of opportunities. When an opportunity that goes within that expectation of your salary range comes up, that is the point they now invite you, because they know you really are good for that job. But it's going to be a big taboo when you now know that I'm not even sure what I'm going to do on the job, but let me just throw in the salary. I mean, Nigeria is good. Let's not use the bad word. Nigeria is good. It's a very wonderful place. They pay fat salaries in Nigeria. So let me go ahead and ask for one of those fat salaries. And that, of course, will make the interviewer tell you, thank you so much. I'll get back to you. And in most cases, you won't get a call from them. So that's very important. Unrealistic expectation is another one. Then another thing is misunderstanding the client's expectation and even the role. Many times, many job seekers show up at interviews assuming the role to be filled to be something entirely different from the reality. So it's important you do your thorough research on the role and understand what exactly is to be filled. What role is to be filled? Try and ask questions about that role from experienced persons. Maybe the next live broadcast I might be doing will be on career path finding, because that way you understand, okay, what am I trying to do? What exactly are the possibilities in these different areas of career I've chosen or I'm applying into? And if you consider this very well, you can be very sure that you would have the right answer. So, misunderstanding of the client's expectation and the role. Another thing very, very important that I've noticed that most candidates would always do is poor communication at the interview. Many times candidates show up at interviews assuming that the interviewer is supposed to be a next door neighbor who you would speak to, how far, na so it be, and things like that. Many of us paint those pictures believing we are being relaxed, but that is not being relaxed. It's showing you as someone who is not a fit for that job. I had a candidate who came in for an interview, and when the person came in for an interview, the person came in a t-shirt and a jean for an administrative role. And I asked the person, if you happen to be an employer today and you ask me to fill these positions for you, and you show up like this, or I show up like this as a candidate, would you employ me? The person was eager to be judgmental, to say, no, I will not. Then the candidate, she realized that, oh, I'm also dressed the same way I'm trying to castigate now. And the person said, it depends. Now, what I said is, oh, see how fast it is for us to turn standards just because we're on the opposite side of the reality. So poor communication. Ensure you speak as if you're talking to someone who doesn't understand any other language but English, except it is otherwise requested. In roles where they want you to be able to speak other languages, they want someone who could speak English. They want somebody who could speak Hausa, somebody who could speak Igbo. So then you might be able to sell yourself in those other languages. Very, very important. But beyond that, just stick to what is basic and ensure that you sell yourself well. Now, the other thing is Okay, I've mentioned that you act like a marketer because you're selling yourself. That's basically what you're doing. You're selling yourself. So act like a marketer. Then some candidates apply for high-profile jobs with limited skills and they have high expectation. This is another reason why lots of job seekers fail. So I have this size of skill, I am looking for this size of job, and I want this size of benefits. It's always a mismatch because it will not always work. So when you go for such interviews and you put up all of these realities, the interviewer would know this person is not fit for the job and they will not get back to you. Now, another thing is that not expecting, okay, assuming the interviewer is going to play sentiments. Lot of the job seekers actually play sentiments. Is it offline? Okay, that's the Instagram, right?
Yes.
Okay, check the Facebook here.